Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Community Connection. I am Vicki Alorcia Casella, a licensed professional counselor. My co-host Mark Kenny is joining us as always. And of course, our special guest who's been with us multiple times already, Amy Allinson Dundon from St. Luke's Hospital. All right, so are we feeling ready for our discussion today? Yes?
Ready.
Yes.
Okay.
Most definitely.
Before we get started, I will just share my normal disclaimer that if anyone who's listening is really struggling with any mental health or just any major concerns, feel free to reach out to your therapist, doctor, caseworker, crisis worker, anyone you feel comfortable with, supports in the community. There's a lot out there, or you're welcome to, of course, reach out to any three of us as well. So our topic for today is positivity and gratitude, which in all honesty, I mean, who can't use that on a regular basis, but particularly now, I mean, I think we all could benefit from that. So Amy, start us off.
Hi, everybody. It's so good to be back. Why positivity? Why talk about positivity? I think when Mark and Vicki and I were talking about important topics, this was high on my list because right now there's a lot that isn't positive, or it's hard to stay positive right now. And there's actually a world or a sub-world in psychology that's called positive psychology. And really, it's about strengths and building on strengths. And it's about being as concerned with our strengths as we are with our weaknesses, right? We're always saying, I need to go to therapy because I X, Y, Z, and they're usually negative. So, one of the foundations of positive psychology is building on your strengths. And I think my guess is that most of the people listening probably aren't really taking inventory of their strengths right now, or at least not on a regular basis. And, I think I just want to kick this off with, kind of taking a look at what are the best things in life right now. What are my pros? What's on my good list? In order to repair the worst, I need to have my strengths as my foundation. Right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really about nurturing, self-nurturing and nurturing each other. Really, I think is positive psychology. And I think also, understanding the value of your emotions. So, emotions tend to be construed as negative sometimes. He's weak, or she's sad, or, what are the benefits of all of our emotions? How are they helping us? How are they propelling us forward? And really making it about what's strong versus what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
When we do our treatment plans here at St. Luke's, we always start with strengths. What is strong versus what's wrong. And I think if we can do that, it sets us up for success rather than kind of dwelling in that fear and that failure, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think it also helps us, right, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
I think it also helps us cope.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah. No, I was just going to reflect what Amy was talking about. This is very similar to Alan Ivy, Mary Ivy's, and Carlos Delaquat's work around the idea of therapeutic lifestyle change. How are we taking care of ourselves? And I think one of the things they talk about is, you mentioned, Amy, what's my relationship like with myself? And I know Dan Gottlieb does a lot around that. The Wisdom Within Us, the book he recently wrote in the last 5 years. And that's what he always asks his clients. How are you relating to yourself? How are you treating yourself? What are you saying to yourself? How do you feel about yourself? And that it really starts with that so relationship really starts there in terms of, as you're saying, stepping back and reflecting and trying to identify that strengths. Because a lot of times, people mean well, but people are pointing out things that they always want us to correct, or that we could be doing better, or trying to give us some helpful suggestions or advice, and as opposed to trying to help the person find those strengths inside of themselves, and to nurture those, as you're saying, to nurture those strengths in order then to be available to yourself, be available to others, and then also be available to the larger community, and be able to engage in our families, engage in our communities and neighborhoods in a positive way, in an engaged way, in a present way, which is, I think, one of the messages I think our program has been trying to get out to people is, healing can take place between two people, but healing can also occur in groups. It can occur within communities, but it's a systems thing. So I have to start with myself and then build out, but it doesn't stop there. How far out will am I going to build to do that? And so I think that there really are some specific things, strategies, daily activities that we can all think about. When we think about self-care, self-compassion, and self-love. And so, what are we doing each day to work and nurture those things as we also work on maybe our challenges, but that we don't lose sight that we're both. And so I think you raised some really good thoughts, and positive psychology really has been a movement to getting us to think, look at ourselves through that light, and then how that helps us with maybe some of our challenges in life. So I think it's an important time for us to think about that, because the world is very draining at the moment. The world is very challenging, very stressful, and is calling upon us to get involved. But maybe some of us need to step back, take our own self-inventory, and then figure out how we want to get involved in some of these community topics and issues that we're talking about. So that's just some of my initial reactions of what you were saying, in terms of, the idea of being, strengths. And then I think we'll get to the gratitude part. But I think that's really important. We all need to know those and be able to name them for ourselves.
Absolutely. So I wanted to share something that I found, probably Facebook, Pinterest, somewhere online. And the heading is how to stay positive in a negative situation. So it actually provides questions that you can ask yourself, because I think a lot of people are like, well, I'm trying to stay positive, but there's just so much negativity out there. So I thought some of these questions might be helpful to kind of ask yourself as you're struggling to stay positive. And I'll just read them through quickly. There's 8 of them. So is this worth getting upset over? Okay, so in the scenario where we're kind of making a mountain out of a molehill, those little things that kind of irritate us throughout the day, I think it's that type of scenario where that question comes into play. Number 2, what is the lesson here? What can I learn from this? So I think that helps a lot of us where we're just trying to figure out, like, what's the purpose of this happening right now? Instead of focusing on the negative, can I focus on what I'm learning from the situation? Kind of like what Amy was saying, like, how can it propel us moving forward? Number 3, am I overreacting or overthinking the situation? So I know with my mind, the actual situation wasn't that bad, but with me replaying it over in my head multiple times, I make it worse in my head than what the actual situation was. So just being really aware of what your mind actually doing with the situation that occurred. Number 4, what is the positive that I can take away from it? So similar to like the lesson. Number 5, how is it making me a better person? Number 6, can I control the situation? Okay, so the situation that we're in right now, lack of control, multiple ways. And I think that's what's really causing people to get stuck, because we feel comfortable when we're in control, right? So it's not about identifying what you can't control, it's identifying what you can control. And I actually don't even really like the word control in general. I try to not use that specific word, but like what's the good things that you can focus on? What are the positive, what are the things that are going well? What kind of changes can I make for myself to make my personal situation better, to kind of control that situation if I can't control what's going on outside of me in the world, in the community. Number 7, what can I do right now to make myself feel better? So self-care, right? Self-care, compassion, love, what you guys were saying. Number 8, how can I see the situation with love? So a lot of these questions, I think, are asking the same thing. They're just being presented in different ways. But when I read that, I thought, I can see these helping me personally when I'm struggling with things. So I thought that might be helpful for other individuals to kind of do like a check-in with themselves of, okay, how can I look at this situation differently? What can I ask myself to help change my perspective of a negative situation so I can look at it from a little bit more positive shift? So
Yeah,
that's what I wanted to add.
Those are great. Those are really good questions.
Yeah.
It takes me right back to, like, you know, your old time CBT stuff. And I even have this thought in my head of the old Joe Harry window, right? That we all, us therapists, learned a long time ago, where, you know, I have to start to figure out, you know, what's the stuff that I'm not telling anybody else? What's the stuff that's unknown to everybody around me? It's hard for me to heal myself if I don't have support and I'm not letting other people in. And if I'm really going to be honest about getting positive and healing myself, I have to really talk about, you know, what's the stuff that I've shut out the rest of the world from knowing? What's the stuff that maybe how other people view me that I don't know about? So ask others for feedback. You know, is there anything you see about me that you feel like, you know, I should know that I'm not understanding? So I really feel like getting to know yourself, and that self, in order to get to the love you were talking about, Vicki, I really feel like it's that internal assessment. But enlisting the people around you, right, to get some feedback and say, what do you see in me right now? Like in the middle of COVID and in the middle of, you know, racial tension or protests and all of the great work that's being done, you know, ask the people around you. I mean, what do you see in me that maybe I'm blind to? I think that's all important right now.
Sure. Anything else that we want to add about positivity, or should we switch over to gratitude now? And I think it's all entwined anyway, but.
Yes, I mean, I think there's definitely there's an intersection with those two things, because in order to be positive, you have to work at it. It's not something you just do. It is something that you have to practice at. It is an emotional well-being. I think, going back to Amy's point about emotions, it's having access to all of your emotions and being able to, you know, express those emotions, not judge the emotions that you're having, but willing to sit with your emotions, and that will then help you sit with other people's emotions. So, you know, I do teach Johari windows still to my students as a way, and being a psychodynamic program, of course, we go into the 4th window of the unknown, and those patterns that you're not familiar with that you surface in these interactions with other people, that all of a sudden you have aha moments where either you recognize it or someone outside of you recognizes it and points it out to you in a loving way, as you're saying, and helps us grow with our growth. And so I think these have to be intentional. It's just not going to happen because I wish it to happen. I have to be intentional. And that's why sometimes I might need to talk to somebody, or sometimes I can do it on my own, or I can do it through social group or non-facilitated support groups. I mean, there's different methods for me to do that, but I have to be intentional.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And to build on that, you know, I think it's about being honest with ourselves about that whole wellness wheel. And, you know, there's a million different areas of my life. You know, we have relationships and finances and spirituality and nutrition and self-esteem. And I may be really good at 7 or 8 of those areas. So I may gravitate, I want to keep going back to those because they're easy for me. You know, it's the hard stuff. It's those areas of our wellness wheel that we keep avoiding. You know, those are the ones that we need to really look at and find gratitude and positivity in, since those are kind of our sticking points. So I always tell people, you know, what are the areas you want to work on? And then they'll tell me, and I'll say, well, why not these? And they'll say, well, you know, that's hard, or it's, you know, so, but I think it's important. I think it's important to really think about the stuff that's easy for me. You know, I may not want to keep going back there. I may want to open up a harder place.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, and I think that's, you know, something, you know, we're working with clients too. I think it's a great, that wellness wheel is a great model to look at for a person to look at and say, okay, but wait a minute, the strength I have in that area, how can I use that in this area? Because, you know, sometimes we compartmentalize and think that things only work in certain arenas of our life. And sometimes we need to see how that strength can be utilized. We just don't see it. And going back to your, Amy, point about getting feedback, that someone can give us the feedback and say, well, have you tried that strength in this part of your life? And let's see how that works for you, or how do you adapt it in your life? So I think that's also, sometimes we see things that people don't see, and we can help them make that little connection, the dots go a little quicker for them. So I think that wellness, I like that idea of looking at the multiple selves. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that keeping a gratitude journal is helpful. At least I recommend that a lot. And I've actually kept a gratitude journal since the beginning of this year. It's called the 6-Minute Diary. And what I love about the setup of this is that it has prompting questions every day. So it'll say, you know, what are 3 things that you're grateful for? But then it also says, how are you going to make it a good day? What's an I am statement that you can focus on for the day? You know, so it's not just writing down those things you're grateful for, it's presenting questions, like open-ended questions, where you can specifically identify what are you going to be doing, what are the tasks, what are the goals, what are the steps that you're going to be taking throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, then you're identifying what went well. There's also a question that says, how have I helped others, which I think is great. So it's that gratitude and positivity, not just about working on yourself, but how are you staying connected with others and helping others? What am I going to continue to do to work on myself and to work on this path? So it's recognizing that you still have work to do, you know, but you can look at that from a positive perspective. Like, I've done some things, I'm still working, but I can be grateful for the little successes that I've had, and what are the things that went well. So I personally love it. It's called the 6-Minute Diary. I recommend it to my clients, friends, everyone, because I just really love it. And I know a lot of people say, well, I've tried it, but I'm always writing the same things over and over again. Well, maybe that's just a way to kind of challenge yourself. You know, so I noticed that in the past, if I've had a really bad day, whatever happened, got a flat tire, argument with someone I love, whatever, you know, my first thought might be, oh, today was just a really crappy day. Like, I can't think of anything good. But if I take a step back and really look at the whole picture, oh, there's tons of things I could still be grateful for. You know, I just have to be mindful of it. Of the little things that are going well, because sometimes those little things are actually really big things. So for me, gratitude journaling every day is a really huge thing, along with reading positive affirmations every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we talk about gratitude. I mean, I think the basis of it is making your normal life more fulfilling. It doesn't have to be that I'm going out there and I'm, you know, saving the world and writing a novel. And, you know, it can be, what am I doing in my day-to-day life? You know, and how do I see that and make that more fulfilling for myself? It doesn't have to be anything different.
Yeah.
But it's just about looking at it differently, which is exactly what you were just talking about with the journal, for sure. You know, I think you have to do that. You know, it's so poignant right now. I mean, you have to do that as an individual, but you also have to do it as a society, right?
Absolutely.
You know?
So one of the ones I use is, this is from positivepsychology.org. So there's a suggestion that you find an object that has some kind of meaning. So this is my gratitude rock. I found this rock on a lakefront beach on the Orcas Island, which is off of the coast of Washington State. And it's an island that's very far off the coast, kind of sits off by itself in the San Juan Islands. And it was a very peaceful day, beautiful day. And I just took this, you know, it wasn't a state park, so I'm not in trouble. But I just liked the texture, the colors, and the design. And I found on positivepsychology.org an exercise of, you know, looking at the rock, and you write And this is more just doing it in your head. What are 3 things that you're grateful for that happened yesterday? What are 3 things that you're grateful for that you're looking forward to today? And then you keep it with you or in front of you. You can carry it, and it doesn't have to be a rock. It could be any object of importance. And whenever you need a boost, just hold it and get that focus out of, as you're saying, the rabbit, down rabbit holes or monkey brain, and this kind of like slows you down, gets you focused, and think about those things. That thing I picked up was a very simple thing. It's just setting 3 intentions a day. Instead of trying to think of everything I need to get done, what are 3 things what are my 3 intentions for the day? And if I get those 3 intentions, then I'm good. I may have not got everything done I needed that day, but I'm good that I got those 3 intentions done. And I'll just end with, I think, 2 people in the field I've been turning to during times that I can be present for people who are hurting, or people who are traumatized, and people who are being systemically oppressed, is Tara Brock's Radical Compassion work, and Dan Siegel's Wheel of Awareness meditation, and how that then allows you to be present by taking care of yourself. Then you're present for other people. And the last thing is by doing that repetition, going back to your point, Vicki, is you create new neural pathways. And now you've broken a pattern of just not always looking at the negative of things. And that you really train your brain to refocus and take in everything, but don't let it overwhelm you in your daily life, so that you can keep going and being yourself and going forward. So just some things I have found helpful personally through my professional work.
Which really is mindfulness, right? I mean, if we're going to get down to it, it really kind of, mindfulness is kind of the umbrella now that kind of all of the stuff you just talked about, Mark. I mean, it really does in that, mindfulness and anchoring, when you were talking, those 2 things came to mind. Anchoring your thoughts, anchoring your happiness and your gratitude and your positivity in an object, grounding yourself. I just think that sometimes it's a lot easier to do if we anchor with something physical. I totally agree with that. Absolutely. And hope. It gives us hope, right? Because it helps us to remember positive times, and that's always important. So
yes, yeah.
That's wonderful. I don't think I have anything else to add. Do either one of you have anything else that you wanted to share? Any last thoughts or anything?
I mean, I think we hit on some really good stuff. I mean, I think for me, the key is knowing your signature strengths, and you may think you know them, but really sitting down with a journal and a pencil and paper and, or soliciting feedback from people you trust, figure out your signature strengths and build on those.
That's great. Thank you so much, guys, for being here today. Such good information. I can't wait to share this with our community. And, like I said, anyone who's listening, watching, you're more than welcome to reach out to any of us if you need any support or guidance, or have any questions. If there's a specific topic that you would like us to cover, or any specific questions, like we did last time, we had like a question viewer review. You're more than welcome to reach out to us. Other than that, have a wonderful day. Stay positive, stay grateful, and we will see you guys soon. Thank you.